DJ Mafia, what's poppin'? Jags fans, it is one of the most exciting times of the NFL offseason. The NFL draft is just a couple of weeks around the corner, and I gotta say, I can definitely speak for myself in the entire Jaguars community when I say that we're very excited for this year's draft. After a disappointing 2023 season, the Jaguars did a lot of great things in this year's free agency period. Trent Baalke really revamped this team, and now we can add some more pieces to it in this year's draft. This is my second mock draft that I'm doing so far. I already did my 1.0. If you guys want to go ahead and check that out, I will go ahead and link to it up above so that you guys can check that out. I will give you a little bit of a spoiler. I traded into the top 5 to go grab Malik Neighbors. I'm sure that you guys will enjoy that, but I'm sure that you're gonna like this mock draft 2.0 even better. Before I go ahead and get into it, if you guys please could, go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure that you guys also go ahead and follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below. And Jags fans, I don't know why I'm laughing. I'm just in a great mood. But let's go ahead and dive deep into today's mock draft 2.0. Now, the Jaguars have 8 total picks coming into this year's draft. We have a pick in every single round, and we have 2 picks in the 4th round. Now, the Jaguars have picks overall: 17, 48, 96, 114, 116, 153, 212, and 236. I almost forgot the last one. But what I'm gonna do before we begin the draft, I'm gonna be trading away our 2nd round pick in 2025 and our 5th round pick at 153 overall to the Dallas Cowgirls for 56 overall. Now we're gonna have 2 2nd round picks at 48 and 56, and that means that we're also gonna be giving up that 5th rounder. So I like what we're doing right now, and now it's time for me to cook with this mock. With the 17th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Terrion Arnold, defensive back, University of Alabama. This is an absolute no-brainer. If Terrion Arnold is still on the board, which he very well may be, for the Jaguars at number 17 overall, don't even hesitate, don't even think twice to fill out that name on that card and go run it up to Roger Goodell and to get Terrion Arnold here in Jacksonville. He is absolutely definitively my cornerback 1 or number 2 in this year's draft class alongside Quinyon Mitchell. They're both 1A and 1B. This guy is going to be a franchise-altering corner for this team from day one. And I'm not gonna dive too deep into Terrion Arnold with this mock draft just because I've already done an entire draft profile and film breakdown just like I've done for Kool-Aid McKinstry and Jared Verse on my Patreon. If you guys wanna go ahead and see that and get way more information and way more in-depth content with a guy like Terrion Arnold, I will go ahead and put it in the link tree in the description down below with my Patreon. But just to give you guys a quick overview about Terrion Arnold and what he's done for the Crimson Tide. 21 years old, obviously defensive back from the University of Alabama. He played 2 seasons for the Crimson Tide as he was a redshirt sophomore. Arnold was named first team All-SEC defensive team in 2023. And this past season for the Crimson Tide, in 14 games, he recorded 840 snap counts. 557 of those were on the outside as a corner. 205 of those were in the slot. He only allowed 41 receptions on 79 targets. That's a 51.9% completion percentage when targeted in coverage. He gave up 2 touchdowns, had 5 interceptions, 13 pass breakups, and a 50.7 NFL passer rating when targeted in coverage. This guy is extremely athletic, has a great IQ and recognition, a very physical tackler, a guy who's sticky in coverage. This is a very well-rounded and day 1 corner at the next level. I'm extremely excited to get this guy here to Jacksonville. And Terrion Arnold, you are our cornerback 1 moving forward. With the 48th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Chris Braswell, edge, University of Alabama. Something about those Bama boys and that SEC and Roll Tide. I am telling you, this is what is going to help take this team over the top. Now, as much as I want a receiver to help Trevor Lawrence, which I will eventually address in this year's draft, adding to this defense, continuing to get great coverage in the secondary with Terrion Arnold, continuing to bolster that defensive front 7 and that defensive line that features Eric Armstead, Josh Allen, Trayvon Walker, and now Chris Braswell. This is money in the making. You are getting a reminiscent of what Sacksonville 2.0 can look like. And look at what Chris Braswell did at this year's combine. 6'3", 251 pounds. His arms came in at 33 1/4 of an inch. His hand size, 9 3/8 of an inch. So he's already got good length and size of the bulky prototype. He ran a 4.6 40, had a 33.5-inch vertical, and a 9.7 broad jump. In 2023, for the Crimson Tide, he led the team with 3 forced fumbles. He appeared in all 14 games, including 2 starts. He had 42 tackles, 10.5 tackles for a loss. He also had an interception return for a touchdown versus Mississippi State, and he had a blocked kick on the year. Chris Braswell, as a pass rusher this past season, recorded 49 total pressures, 28 quarterback hurries, and 8 QB hits, and had an outstanding 13 sacks on the year. Now, obviously, his numbers are going to look a lot better when you're playing with a very talented front seven that features guys like Dallas Turner, who I believe was the SEC AP All-Defensive Player of the Year. He's going to be the first edge off the board. You're obviously playing with Justin Eboigbe and a lot of other great talented players on that Alabama defense and in that front seven. Now, getting back to Chris Braswell, just to be brief, I will say he doesn't flash off the screen as much as a guy like Dallas Turner, obviously playing on a talented front seven, but he does have very good quickness off the line of scrimmage. He does flash strong use of his hands coming off of the edge and really setting the edge in a lot of pass rushing situations. He's great with his feet, has a good motor. He does a great job of just sniffing out plays, IQ when you talk about screens coming out of the backfield, and just great overall potential and athleticism. I see this guy developing in that DeJuan Smoot type of role, where I don't think he's a day one edge, but this guy's gonna come in and produce on pass rushing situations and be a dominant force in that front seven for the Jaguars. Now, with the 56th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Jalen Polk, wide receiver, University of Washington. And to me, Jalen Polk is a wide receiver 2 at best, but I couldn't give up the value of a Chris Braswell and a Terrion Arnold early on, and Jalen Polk is honestly going to be a very serviceable and very good receiver for the Jaguars day one for this organization, and I can see him growing with Trevor Lawrence long term. When you take a look at what Jalen Polk did for the Huskies last season, in 2023, he recorded 55 receptions on 87 targets, 943 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He only had 4 drops on the season, an incredible 55% contested catch rate. He had a 50% contested catch rate his 4 seasons in college. This is a guy who's going to high point the ball. He's got great hands. He's not a body receiver, and this guy is very capable of coming down with 50-50 balls and really making those 75-20 balls when it's up in the air. At 6'1", 203 pounds, this guy has the frame and the size to excel at the next level, and that's exactly what I think he can do here in Jacksonville. He does a great job of tracking the ball down in the air, high pointing the ball like I've mentioned, great use of his hands. Like I said, I like that he's not a body receiver. He breaks into his routes very well, and something that I love about him is he's not, like I said, just a possession receiver. He can go out there and get yards after the catch, 240 yak yards last season. Now, with a couple of his weaknesses, I will say just from my personal evaluation, he's not the fastest guy. I don't think you're asking him to be the fastest guy out there on the field. You're not asking him to be a burner, and you're also not asking him to take the top off of a defense, something that we're going to be asking Gabe Davis a lot this season, to take the top off of the defense. And I think he needs to get a lot better with his feet and his acceleration off of the line of scrimmage in terms of press man coverage. Sometimes I see him, getting checked at the line of scrimmage, and he doesn't really break off of into his routes all that well. Something he'll need to continue to work on at the next level. And I think Chad Hall, our wide receivers coach, if that's still him, we're gonna get him up to speed. Now, I'm not trying to be too long-winded with this, so I'm gonna continue to try to fly through these picks. With the 96th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Mason McCormick, guard, South Dakota State University. Now, the Jaguars last season were absolutely derailed on the offensive line, especially on the interior of the offensive line. You've retained Ezra Cleveland, you got Mitch Morse in free agency, and Brandon Sheriff is still here. You restructured his contract, so that interior of the offensive line looks a lot better. You have to protect your franchise quarterback, and the Jaguars are going to continue to do that and make sure that you have an insurance plan at the guard position behind an Ezra Cleveland, behind a Mitch Morse, and behind a Brandon Sheriff. And Mason McCormick comes in at 6'4", 309 pounds. His arm length, 33 7/8 of an inch. His hand size, 10 inches. He ran a 5.08 40 time, a 35.5-inch vertical, and a 9'9" broad jump. He spent 6 seasons, let me repeat that again, 6 seasons at South Dakota State University. He's been there since 2018. I was a junior in high school. Put that into perspective. He's going to be 24 years old in May, so he's going to be 24 next month. He has shown great durability. That's one thing I will give him. He appeared in 57 straight college games for the Jackrabbits. Now, this past season for the Jackrabbits in 2023, in 326 pass blocking snaps, he allowed 0 sacks, 0 hits, just 3 quarterback pressures, and he was only penalized 8 times. Now, that's something that he's going to have to work on, obviously making sure his hand placement's there, but continue to bolster the offensive line, and let's go out there and get a top quality guard and get some good depth for this offensive line. With the 114th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Justin Eboigbe, edge, University of Alabama. What is up with me taking guys from the Crimson Tide? Shout out to Nick Saban, even though he's no longer the coach there anymore. And shout out to the Crimson Tide, man. That is 3 defensive players, Terrion Arnold, Chris Braswell, and now Justin Eboigbe, coming to the Jacksonville Jaguars in this year's draft class. Eboigbe comes in at 6'4", 295 pounds. His arm length, 33 3/8 of an inch. Hand size, 9 3/4 of an inch. He ran a 5.18 40 and had a 28-inch vertical at the combine. Not exactly sure what he did at his pro day. I couldn't find his numbers for a lot of the Alabama guys at their pro days, so if you have those, please send them my way. This past season for the Crimson Tide, Eboigbe, as a 5th-year senior, appeared in 13 games. He logged a total of 657 snaps for the Crimson Tide. And as a pass rusher, he totaled 30 quarterback pressures, 18 quarterback hurries, 5 quarterback hits, and 7 sacks on the season. Very similar to Chris Braswell when I talk about, obviously, this guy's not an edge number 1, nor is he really an edge number 2. I'd have to see how he produces at the next level, but you're gonna look a lot better when you're playing with great talented players all over your defense, and especially in that front 7 with guys like Dallas Turner, Justin Eboigbe, Chris Braswell, etc. Now, Alabama did line up Eboigbe kind of all over that front 7. He had 301 snaps lined up on the outside, 169 of those right over the tackle, 149 in the B gap, and 33 in the A gap. And for my personal evaluation of him, I think he does a great job in run defense. He finishes his tackles very well, does a good job of collapsing the pocket. He's not perfect when it comes to setting the edge. Sometimes his motor looks a little bit lackluster, but you know, I can give him a break for that once in a blue moon. I do see him as a very versatile pass rusher in terms of a depth piece that the Jaguars can continue to add and bolster to their front 7. I can see this guy in a 3 technique, in a 5 technique, or just a straight edge rusher for the Jaguars at the next level. Now, the only weakness I really identify with him outside of his motor, sometimes I think he gets a little bit lackluster coming off of the line of scrimmage. He's not as explosive at times as a guy like a Chris Braswell, who's a tremendous athlete. Same thing with Dallas Turner, but I think that this guy could be a DeJuan Smoot type of player for this organization moving forward. With the 116th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Tyke Smith, safety, University of Georgia, and it's something about those Bulldogs on this Jaguars defense as well too. Trayvon Walker, Tyson Campbell, and now Tyke Smith coming to Duval County. And you take a look at what Smith did this past season for the Bulldogs. He actually played the star position for them, which means that he lined up a lot of times in the linebacker position, also as a safety, a guy who could be a hybrid, interchangeable between both of those positions. This is a guy who is very, very versatile. Of course, he comes with his weaknesses, which is what I'll talk about here momentarily, but he played 62 snaps near the defensive line. 87 of those were in the box, 18 at free safety, 434 in the slot, and 29 at corner. Georgia used this guy all over the field. He is a Swiss Army knife. In 630 total snap counts for the Bulldogs, he registered 53 tackles, 9 quarterback pressures, 2 sacks, allowed 28 receptions on 51 targets. That's a 54.9 completion percentage. He had 4 interceptions and a 50 NFL passer rating when targeted in coverage. This guy does a great job in the intermediate parts of the field when you talk about run defense, reading the eyes of the quarterback, and just being that versatile defender that can go out there, create pressures from the nickel, play in coverage from 5-10 yards off of the line of scrimmage, and kind of keep his poise in those zone coverages. Now, I will say he's going to be a very good special teams guy, which is something that the Jaguars definitely value and they invest a lot of money and time into, and he can definitely be a gunner, something that he was doing a lot of for the University of Georgia. Now, the big weakness with a guy like Smith is the fact that his length and his size at 5'10", 210 pounds, and ran a 4.46 40, 36-inch vertical, doesn't have the greatest length, doesn't have the greatest athleticism. It's serviceable, but he still can be a solid depth piece. I definitely see this guy as like a Daniel Thomas, mid to late round kind of guy that's gonna contribute and can be a solid depth piece on both defense and in special teams. Now getting into the last two picks, I'm just gonna fly through these. With the 212th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars are gonna select Trenty Jones, tackle from the University of Michigan. We're gonna bring a Wolverine here down to Duval County. He comes in at 6'4", 305 pounds. In this past season, in 148 pass blocking snaps for the Michigan Wolverines, he allowed 0 sacks, 2 quarterback hits, which unfortunately both came in that game versus Washington, 1 quarterback hurry, and he was only penalized 3 times. He also registered 82 snaps as an inline tight end, something I found definitely very interesting. And now getting into the last pick, with the 236th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Evan Anderson, defensive lineman, Florida Atlantic University, and shout out to Eric Dunn and his Owls. This past season, Evan Anderson for the Owls in 535 snaps recorded 18 pressures, had 5 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, 12 QB hurries, and 28 tackles. He took over 96% of his snaps over the A and the B gap, and this is just another move to continue to bolster that defense and that front seven. Now your front seven looks like Chris Braswell, Evan Anderson, Eric Armstead, Roy Robertson Harrison, Trayvon Walker, Devon Hamilton, Josh Allen, Eric Armstead, whoever else I'm forgetting. You have a very legitimate defensive line, guys you can rotate in and out, and you are getting you're reminiscing about Sacksonville 2.0 and what it can be. You guys get my point. But Jags fans, that's really it for my Jaguars 2.0 mock draft. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what your favorite pick was, and also give me a player that you guys want me to do a draft profile and film breakdown for on my next Patreon video. Like I said, I've already got Terrion Arnold, Jared Verse, and Kool-Aid McKinstry in there. The link tree will be in the description down below, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. But Jags fans, thank you guys again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, aka BJ, I'm out, y'all. And like always, let's go Jags.